Welcome to Greater Good Radio Hawaii, where leaders inspire leaders. Greater Good Radio Hawaii is dedicated to social entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Evan Leong, and with me is my co-host, Carrie Leong.
Thank you, Evan. Today's guest is the most powerful man in Hawaiian music. He's the first Hawaii music producer to achieve a RIAA certified gold record. He has over 150 recording projects and has been involved with nearly 100 Nahoku Hanohano Award-winning projects, which is Hawaii's version of the Grammys. Speaking of the Grammys, 2005 marks the first year that a Grammy Award was given for Hawaiian music, and 3 out of 5 nominees are represented by our guest today. Let's welcome a music legend with over 30 years of music industry experience, JON de MELLO. Welcome to Greater Good Radio, John.
Gee, sounds like I've done a few things.
Yes, you're very well accomplished. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Mountain Apple Company and what they do?
Mountain Apple Company is a full-service record company. It does everything that is in the music business. License, produce, replicate CDs, publish. It does all of the different avenues of the music business. Most people don't quite understand that about our firm. We are going after licensing the digital music downloads around the world. We're in the shipping business. We ship to, in fact, we shipped 5 boxes to the Netherlands yesterday. So we are trying to promote and produce and organize Hawaiian music, Hawaiian language, and hula, and cultural events from our station in the middle of the Pacific.
So you guys basically taking Hawaiian music global.
Global.
That's more or less. Did you always start off doing all of those things, or did you start off with one thing and moved into others?
Pretty much so. In the early days of the music business, there were only a few record outlets in Hawaii. So making just records, LPs in those days, you had to expand. You had to do different things. Publishing came into the viewplane very quickly. The laws were changing in the early 70s with publishing rights and publishing laws and things like that. So we always have been fairly diversified. And the way the world is now, it's definitely a multimedia world, and you have to be able to do and think in different modes to focus and help people focus at different things, especially our community, Hawaii, and our culture, the Hawaiian culture.
Where did the name Mountain Apple come from?
Well, I had a studio in Tantalus, a home on the top of Tantalus, and I had a tin roof, and it was a very, very quiet night, okay? And I was sitting behind an Apple II computer. If you listeners know what that is, you're dating yourself. They're worth quite a bit of money right now if they're still in the original box, I understand. But I was sitting there with an Apple II computer trying to do some business modeling and organizing of a business that had already been working for 10 years. And it was a very still, quiet night in Tantalus, and an indigenous fruit from Hawaii called the mountain apple, which I had a huge tree in the back of my house. All of a sudden I heard a little plop on the tin roof, and it rolled right down the tin roof and fell into the bushes right in front of me. And I thought that was kind of a sign from God, that it had to be Mountain Apple Company. And being an indigenous fruit to the islands, it made perfect sense to me.
You could also think, actually, since Tantalus is up a mountain, and then you're on Apple, it could be Mountain Apple also that way.
Almost, yes. That's
interesting. So what exactly does a music producer do? I mean, what does your job or profession entail?
I'm in constant search of talent, and talent is not just singing or playing an instrument. It is the focus on living, the art of living, the art of discipline, of how you build your craft. Now, obviously, Mountain Apple makes CDs, and those are audible. And so you normally you sing and you play an instrument. Sometimes you just sing, or sometimes you just play an instrument in a ki'ualu fashion, in slack key and such. So I'm in constant look for new talents, new people, new raw things to be able to take and to organize their thoughts a bit with them and let them be involved in the process of collecting. It's like making a lei. You go to the mountains and you pick green and you pick flowers and you come back and then you string something together and you make something that is a beautiful adornment. Well, same thing with CDs and music. And I just try to take the artists and clone their potential and organize their ideas and focus them into one realm of music.
Are you the only one that recruits these talents that you see
We have 28 people in our organization, and they're constantly approached on the street, given CDs. I get 8 or 10 CDs a week that I'm listening to. I have my little spies, so to speak, that are always looking for things out there. I'm connected to the musical community, and I kind of know what's going on and where it is there, you know. So, no, it's not just me. It comes from every which way, and you have to look at everything. You never know where the next is, you know. It's a very interesting process. It's very creative. It's very organized in some ways and very unorganized in others. But you never know where you're going to find your next megastar, so to speak.
Where's the most unusual place you found talent before?
In a garage, driving home late at night, and there's a bunch of lights on, fluorescent lights, and a bunch of people with slippers, you know, making a lot of noise and laughing and giggling. And
you were just driving by?
I was just driving by. And I drove by a little farther, parked on the side of the road, walked back, and they didn't know who I was from Adam, and they just called me in and said, you know, wow, this sounds cool, man. What is this? What is this? You know, and they just sat me down. They fed me.
Oh, yeah?
This is a Waimanalo.
Uh-huh.
And they fed me and the whole thing, you know, it's great, you know. So it can be that. It can be a kid on the beach with an ukulele playing, okay, alone. A lot of people call and they say, well, Mr. de Mello, I'd like to submit a CD. I'd like to give you my sound or something like that, but I don't have the money to go into a studio. And I said, you don't have to. Just open a microphone and play and sing and do whatever you can do. I can see through that. If there's traffic noise in the back, don't worry about that. If there's chickens squawking, don't worry about that. I know how to spot what you do. I can see through all that maze. Just push the record button and play an ukulele and sing me a song, and we'll talk about it. And a lot of times I get that. It's as raw as that. Some of the talent I found and developed over the years has been that raw, where a CD, I have their first submission.
Can you give us an example of a name? Or
Richard Nato was a very, very powerful, interesting entertainer, and he was working in a place called Kojak's. This is quite a while ago. And this guy was just a fireball. And he was just energized. He was a performer. He was a player. He sang. He wrote. He did everything. And he still does. He's brilliant, okay? And he gave me a CD, or actually it was a cassette in those days, and it was pretty rough and pretty raw. But I walked in. He was the opening act for a stand-up comedian. Mm-hmm. He was an opening act. He played for 20 minutes and got off stage. He was smoking a cigar on stage and chewing it and jumping up and down and swinging his guitar. And he was magic. Magic to watch and magic to listen to. And his songwriting is impeccable. So I joined up together. They were in a group called Tomonato, and they kind of split apart. And I took Richard and sort of helped Richard develop himself and move into some things. And it was just a scratchy old cassette that really started that whole train moving.
So what's the next step then? They send you a cassette, you listen to it, you say, oh, this has some potential, and then what happens?
Then I'll call for normally an interview. I never listen to a piece of music that they've written or organized with them in the room. It just sets up too many potential hazards. And so I like to review it on my own time and see how I feel about it. If it triggers me with ideas and such, I'll call them in for an interview, basically. And I'll be saying to them that they're interviewing me as much as I'm interviewing them. I mean, you know, it's a position where a producer's got to get close to someone and try to develop talent. And it's a very interesting position. You're touching God almost in certain ways. So the next step is to interview. And I'm very concerned about lifestyles. I'm very concerned about on time. Again, it's not just music. In the case of Richard Nato, he was brilliant as a performer on stage. He could just make you crazy, you know, and just make you go, you know, more, you know. Plus, he was great at what he did, his craft, and he just loved it. And he had this desire in his mind that he was getting there, period, over and out. That's it. And if I can find that in the first kind of interview with someone, then I know I have half a chance. The second one, we start talking about material. And then I'll take them in for a trial run in the studio and just see how they react in a studio, in a real studio.
Do they get nervous?
Oh, very nervous. Mm-hmm. And normally the first one or second one, I don't even count. I know they're going to be, you know, if I can hear their lyrics between their teeth chattering, mm-hmm. you know, I'm lucky, you know, or their knees clanging, you know. Mm-hmm. But I try to open that up and just say, listen, just think you're at home, you know, think you're in the shower singing. Go. It's the best echo chamber in the world, okay? Just do something. And then we can talk about what it is. You're not trying to impress me. You're not trying to do anything. You're just trying to do what you do. and then let me envision if there's any possibilities of the future and what we could do together as a producer and a musician.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.